I thought our last game against Auburn, we put ourselves in a bind with our foul troubles in the first half. We had 4 guys on the bench there to end the half with 2 fouls, and with us having just 8 scholarship players, it really puts us in a bind personnel-wise, and I thought we gave up way too many points off turnovers. I believe Auburn had 26 points off our turnovers just in the first half, and we had 16 turnovers in the first half. So the reason we were out of that game in the first half because of those 2 reasons: our inability to guard without fouling, and then also turning the basketball over.
Our first question is from Bob Holt of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Hey, Coach. How you doing today?
Good, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of season I.J. Reddy's had for you.
Well, he has an up-and-down season, and mostly due to the fact that he's missed 7 games, totally out of his control due to injury with the hamstring and then also with the concussion. So anytime you're a freshman and you miss time, it's valuable time because you're still trying to learn the system and get acclimated to college basketball at this level. But we've been really pleased with IJ when he's on the court because he's the type of kid that wants to win and knows how to win. He's a tough kid. He's really conscientious about trying to do the right things, and he has some natural leadership abilities. The thing with IJ that we're trying to get him to do is just be more aggressive on the offensive end. He wants to facilitate, and at this point in time, we need him to try to be a guy who breaks the defense down. And if he's not a scorer, at least do something that leads to a score because our team sorely needs that. But I got all the confidence in the world that IJ Reddy is going to be a quality SEC basketball player for us.
I'm sure you're hoping he can stay healthy down the stretch. If he can, doesn't miss any more games, how big an upside can he have this last part of the season and moving into the future?
Well, I think it'll be huge for us because with our inability to shoot the basketball, I think he's our best perimeter shooter if you look at our three-point field goal percentage. And I also think he's our best passer, too. So, with our struggles of scoring at times, he'd be a huge asset if we can keep him healthy.
Next question is from Matthew Harris of the Baton Rouge Advocate.
Morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I was going to ask, it seems like there have been some offensive struggles, obviously, the past 4 or 5 games, and I'm wondering how much of that is tied to Thomas and Borchert seeming to struggle a little bit offensively. Those guys have been nice pieces behind Craig all year and through conference play.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with it, but I think more so than anything, it's just been the fact that teams have played us zone so much. When teams play us man-to-man, we tend to get to the free throw line, and that really helps our offense. And when teams are playing us zone, we really haven't attacked the same way we attack the man, and we got to figure out a way to still be as aggressive as we are in our man-to-man offense as we are in our zone offense. So I think that's part of why all of our guys are struggling. I think the second thing is that with Borchert and Thomas, they've got to find a way to be basketball players without the three-point shot. I think both of those guys have a tendency to view how they play basketball by how well they shoot the ball. And I think they're so much better players than that, and they can do so much more, and they've got to stop living vicariously through their three-point shooting.
How tempting is that going to be, though, against LSU, a team that's sort of gone to that zone to take away the driving lines that Craig might prefer, but it's also allowed teams in the past couple games, at least on the road, to shoot the ball particularly well from the three-point arc? How much do you want to balance those guys getting those looks that LSU may give them and some teams have been successful with versus, allowing Greg to sort of do what he does off the dribble?
Well, I think one thing, too, if you look at their percentages, their points in the paint, teams have gotten a lot of points in the paint these past few games against LSU, even though they're playing in that zone. I think it has something to do with the fact they're giving up some offensive rebounds because it's hard to find blockout responsibilities when you're playing that zone. But I think the biggest difficulty you have against LSU when they're in that zone is just all the size they have, and it takes away your passing lanes, but also your driving lanes, too.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is David Pascal of the Chattanooga Times Free Press.
Hey, Coach, wanted to take you back to last week and just kind of your thoughts on Georgia.
Well, I think first and foremost, Georgia is a well-put-together team. I think Coach Fox have those guys understanding what their roles are on the team and how they can help the team, and everybody's bought into that. I don't think think they take unnecessary threes. I think those guys know their roles and responsibilities, and I think that's, part of building a team. I think the second thing about it is the fact that they're so big and long. Man at the point guard spot is 6'5", and he's bigger than all other point guards he plays against, and, that's part of the reason he ends up getting to the free throw line so much. And I just think along their front line, they have so much size and length that they cover up for some of their defensive mistakes with their ability to affect your shot at the end. And then also go get offensive rebounds on the offensive end. So I think those guys are really playing well, but I think it's really part of, credit due to Mark Fox because he's got those guys understanding what they are as a team.
A lot of people didn't have them 8-4 at this point of the season. Anything that they did that surprised you that maybe you learned more about them after facing them than film prep going in?
Well, I think the one thing that you can't see on film sometimes is when you play them, in person there is just their toughness. We were up 22-8 on them and
right.
24 to 15. And those guys didn't drop their head. They didn't get down. They just found a way to keep battling and eventually got back into the ball game. And then the second half just really put it on us. So I think more so than anything, those guys understanding how to deal with some adversity and continue to do what they do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is from Richard Kroom of the Bryan College Station Eagle.
Hey, Coach. I'd like to know the difficulties on and off the court for getting a program to the next level, some of the things you've experienced and maybe didn't think would happen.
Well, I think, I've got an assistant coach here that's been a long-time fan of the SEC and has been obviously a coach at this level. And he says besides, personnel-wise, when John Brady took over at LSU, he don't know if there's been a more difficult situation of a coach coming into the SEC personnel-wise. And I'm not a historian on SEC basketball, and that may or may not be the case, but it's just the fact that we've dealt with a lot of issues here personnel-wise coming into the program. And that's not anything to say like, hey, feel sorry for me, but I just think it's kind of lost upon people sometimes that we played 2 years here with 6 and 7 and 8 scholarship guys. And I feel real confident about where we're going and where we will be once we get our full allotment of 13 scholarship players. But at this point in time right now, it's hard to hold guys accountable for their errors on the court when you don't have a substitution pattern. And more so than anything, you don't have competition for those minutes. But I like where we're going. I know it's frustrating because we're losing some ball games, but we just got to find a way to continue to get better as the season goes along. And our guys got to somehow get some confidence back in themselves.
Do you find the recruiting is tougher because of your record in the last year or two?
Well, no, not really, because if you look at what we've done so far, and obviously I can't name names here, but we've already got 3 commitments in the 2015 class, and we were able to secure some 2014 commitments rather early. So I think it's like people have a belief in what we're selling and what we're doing here. I think more so than anything when recruits and the people around them get on our campus and they see how we work with our kids and the facilities and what we have to offer here, I think it's an easy sell. But, obviously if you continue to lose at this rate, then it will be a problem. But right now, I think people still believe in what we're doing. And I think once we get all the able bodies in here, we'll be just fine.
Okay. Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Our last question is from Matthew Harris of the Baton Rouge Advocate.
Sorry, Coach, I just forgot to ask. What do you think Thomas and Borchert can do to diversify their attack within the offense for you guys right now?
Well, I think they can't settle for the early three-point shot. I think for instance, like Colin Borchert, I think Colin Borchert has the highest basketball IQ on our team, and he can do some other things to help the team besides, live and die with his three-point shooting. I think he's a versatile player where he can score in the post. He's got a great pull-up game, and he's really probably our second-best passer on the team, even from that power forward spot. I think with Fred Thomas, I think that he makes a high percentage of his shot fake, 1 dribble pull-up or 2 dribble pull-ups. So I think he's got to start doing that because people are still flying at him at his three-point shot, and it ends up being a contested shot at times. So I just think some little things like that, and I think Fred Thomas has probably become our best perimeter defender, so he can affect the game on the defensive end just as well he can on the offensive end too. So it's just a combination of some things that each one of those guys can do to help themselves.